Welcome. Here we are, having our regular weekly podcast. Jordan's not with us. Jordan is out in Tucson with my other daughter and family and spending time with them. And so, as I was thinking about what I wanted to do with this podcast, I mentioned it in a couple of our services as well, is that I've gotten to meet a couple of young guys, and these young guys are really very unique in a lot of ways, because both of them that I've mentioned, two of them, one is in Stockton and another one is in Mesa, Arizona, that they're young guys. And I was talking to them, and what really got my attention was the fact that they had gotten saved and had given their lives to Jesus. And it was amazing to me because both of their testimonies was very, very similar to mine. And I discovered that they had grown up without any kind of church background, and really began to make me think about, over the years, having been in this particular fellowship and how we were birthed. Our fellowship was it was always young people, very, very radical people. And now seeing these younger guys who are coming up, and really got my attention because, like I said, they're not church kids, but it's that same kind of spirit. And this has been my hope for a long time, is to be able to see that kind of thing again, like it was at the time when I got saved. And so I thought I would invite him on, and so I'm going to bring him in. I want to first apologize for the quality of the video, because the video quality is not so good. We had to do a last-minute thing on his phone because his computer wasn't working, but it'll be good, and I'm looking forward to it. And if you have questions, please put in the questions in the chat, and then I'll be sure to give him. He can't see the questions or anything, but I'll be sure to get that across, and we're going to have a good time. So I'm going to bring in now, and so I'll just welcome in Rafael Alvarez. So go ahead and say hello.
Hello. Hey guys. My name is Rafael, and again, I'm from Stockton. So yeah, I'm glad to be on this episode, this podcast, and yeah.
Okay. So I told him I wanted to ask him some questions about things, because I saw a testimony video that he had done. I guess it was a couple of weeks ago, and it was just a very good testimony, and he said a lot of things in it that I wanted to talk about. The first thing I wanted to do, though, is just to kind of set the stage for things. Why don't you explain to us a little bit about the church that you're going to now in Stockton, how kind of what's going on there, the size of it, different things, just to get a feel for what is the church like?
Okay, for the church. So at the moment, we just barely moved into a new building. This humongous, it's not humongous, but it's pretty big. It's way bigger than the original place where I got saved at. And for the people, we're averaging around 20 to 30 people. We're not as these humongous churches, but we still making an impact in Stockton.
Okay. Has there been any churches that have been sent out or anything like that?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Not from our church.
Okay. And so what about like ministries in the church? What do you have in the way of like ministries, things that people are doing other than what the pastor does? What are some of the things that are being done, like song service, any things going on, Bible studies, things like that, anything like that that's going on by other people in the church other than the pastor?
At the moment, we have ministries, but we don't have people stepping up for those ministries.
Uh-huh.
So at the moment, pastor is leading song service, but we have a drummer, we have a pianist, and a bass player.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have a sound person, that's me. Then
Okay.
we have a person that's in charge of the camera and the slides and the live stream.
Okay.
And then of course we have the ushers.
Okay. So you're the sound guy as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So the reason why I'm laughing about this is that so let's go with your testimony first. So give me a little background for people who are listening of your testimony. You can go ahead, share the stuff that you had on that your video as well, and we'll just fill in the gaps as we go along. But
Okay.
just very briefly, so we have some time to talk about other things. But just
Mhm.
how you got saved, what happened?
So I didn't grow up in church. I didn't know anything about Jesus Christ. I didn't know how you had to have a relationship over anything. I grew up Catholic, and it was just a religion for me. It was just go to church just because my parents said so, and that was for just how my life was until I was 14. Then June 28th of 2020, I got invited to church for her to get baptized, for one of my cousins to get baptized. And that same day, me and my other cousin, Faith, we both came, and we just we were in our minds, we were just coming to support her. We weren't thinking of going to church or getting saved or anything. But then as soon as the pastor got done preaching, me and her felt God's presence and felt his love, and me and her decided to get saved that day and get baptized. So then yeah, then yeah, that's pretty much it for
Okay,
when I
so
got saved.
that's really interesting. So you went to the church to visit the church. That was your whole idea, just to support your cousin, you and another cousin.
Yeah.
And then both of you decided that same service, not only to get saved, but you actually got baptized that same service.
Yep.
So I, I think that's fantastic. I mean, that's absolutely fantastic. It's just as raw as raw can be. And so you mentioned that, and the fact that you weren't raised in church, and so you went to a service, you get saved, you're baptized. You mentioned in their testimony that your mom was asking you what's wrong, and
Oh
you
yeah.
said, I don't know. But what was going on in your mind? I mean, there must have been there must have been something going on inside of there
It was
during.
just during that time. I remember we're sitting on the right side of the church, so there was like three different rows, like columns basically, and we're sitting on the second row for the column. And I remember sitting next to my mom, and then all I remember was just as soon as the pastor got done preaching, I just started crying, just bawling my eyes out, just like because I just felt God's presence. I felt His love, and my mom was just asking. She was like, "What's wrong? What's wrong with him?" She was
Yeah.
asking the other cousin that was getting baptized, like,
Oh,
"What is wrong with him? What's happening?" And I don't remember exactly what she said, but it was like something about God or about Jesus. And I wasn't really paying attention to anyone, but me personally, it was just I felt happy for once. I felt just something because I was empty beforehand. I was just living life just day to day, and that's it.
yeah. So talk about that a little bit. What was it that you were doing? What was your sort of just day to day living? What were you doing? Because you were only 15 at the time, right?
14.
14. Okay.
Mhm. So beforehand, I was just being a regular kid, going to school, trying to hang out with friends. Almost every single time I try to go not go away from my family, but try to hang out at my friend's house because I didn't want to see both of my parents fighting constantly every single second. And so later on, at I think 14 or 13, no, 12. My bad.
Mm,
At 12, that's when I started playing football,
right.
and that's what became my identity. That's what I did every single second, every single minute, and that's what I was just breathing football, eating, breathing football, every single thing. I would go to practice. I'll be the first one to show up. I'll be the last one to leave. Every single game, I'll give it 120%. Everything. I promise you, if you talk to someone before I got saved, they'll ask who I was. They'll be, oh, that's Rafa, the football player, because that was the only thing that I was showing or having any kind of care for or
Yeah.
love to,
Yeah.
because I was empty inside. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I was like, using football as an outlet to feel or do something
Right.
to basically hide what was inside of me.
So you mentioned in your testimony that you got to a point to where you had, so just to clarify things, you said that somebody had given you a word that you were coming to a crossroads. Was that your pastor?
Yes, that was my pastor.
Oh, okay. So it was coming from him. Okay. And so then later on, I guess at some other point, or was it that same night that
I can't remember exactly when, but all I remember was a Wednesday service in the
Mhm.
middle of the night, and I think that was when my football season almost got done, and we're about to start up the new season. My pastor came up to me, and basically he said this. He worded it differently, but this is what he basically told me. What I got from him, basically.
Yeah.
Rafa, you're gonna have to choose between football or serving God.
Uh-huh.
That was the main point where he was basically telling me
Mhm.
either quit football and serve God,
Okay.
or serve God.
Okay. So this is what I want to get some clarity on. And so what was the problem that football was causing for you?
It was just I just was going back into sin. I was going mostly it was just I was addicted to porn. So all being a pervert and all that, going back into my old roots basically, and just not following God. I would go to church and all that, but my heart was completely away from God. That was the time when I was just going to church just because of it. I was like, oh, I got nothing else to do. I just well just go to church.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, that's it.
Okay, so because you said that, and you said the same thing in your testimony video. You mentioned about how you connected football and sin together, and I was trying to get the idea here of where that came in. Is where's the issue of sin actually? Where did that come in your uh, so you know what I'm saying is
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the idea of, because you mentioned both times you mentioned about sin was the issue, but so I'm trying to make the connection between sin and
Hmm.
football. Was it their lifestyle associated with football? So was it more than just practice? Was it other things or
It was not necessarily. It wasn't bad. This is the thing. Football is not wrong. Playing sports is not a sin at all.
yeah?
But when that comes as it became an idol for me,
Okay,
that's what the sin came in. That's what I was that, and then going back into porn.
okay.
Those were the two things that made football so bad to me.
Okay.
And
Was it because you were doing that kind of stuff with the guys you were in football with, or I mean,
um
how was that?
I believe so. I don't know exactly why I went back. It was just, oh no, it was because that was what they're constantly talking about.
Right.
They're constantly talking about girls. They're
Okay.
constantly talking about all this stuff,
Right.
and that basically changed my mind basically and
Right.
put it back how it was.
Okay. So that environment of
Hmm.
with your guys, the guys you were playing football with and stuff, and so it was more that than the actual game itself or your commitment level to the game or anything like that. It was more
Yeah.
just the kind of relationships with the people that were
Hmm.
making you think other ways. Cool. So yeah, so I get that, and that was kind of what I wanted to look at was that idea. But now on the other side, so you've made the decision. So let me ask you this first: how long of a period of time was that? The time that you got saved to the time you decided that football was getting in the way.
So I got saved June 28th, and I quit football in July of 2021. So a couple, basically one football season. Like
Okay.
I don't want to say a year because I don't know. I don't think
Right.
it was
Yeah.
exactly a year,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
almost like a good couple of months.
Okay. So you make this decision. So at what point? Um, so I'm not trying to make a connection here if there's not, but I'm trying to get an idea here. So when you decided, okay, that's it with the football and stuff like that, you made that decision. Is that when things switched in your thinking, or was there something else after that?
It was it my the way I was thinking didn't switch in like instantly,
Mhm.
but it got better how I was thinking, how my relationship with God was strengthening. It was getting better
Okay. Okay.
throughout me quitting football.
Okay. So you also mentioned in your testimony about the uh, doing a Bible study on the high school at the high school campus. And so how so you I'm trying to put a timeline together sort of. So you had the you decided, okay, I'm done with football, and then you start getting things together. How long was it before you decided to do this Bible study on the your high school campus?
So originally, so when I was playing football, it was online. That was doing when COVID first hit and
Okay.
we couldn't go to school.
Oh, okay.
Then when we came back, that was like a week or that was a week after. So the week of the first day of school,
Hmm.
that was the week I went to boot camp.
Okay.
So then that really basically just catapulted me to start a Bible study. That was like August,
Okay.
like of August of 2021. Like I quit football in July 2021.
Okay. So you said that you went to the school. You said there was already a Bible study going,
Mm-hmm.
and
It
then
was yeah.
go ahead.
Uh, so when there wasn't really a Bible study there. It was just there was a club that was basically preaching the gospel, telling people about Jesus, but there was no one in charge of the club. There was no one basically in lead for for the club to do anything. It was just barely starting up because of it was didn't have no people to do it. No
Okay.
people was trying to come to the club and lead it and do all that basically.
So how did it get started in the first place?
It started a long time ago before I even started going to school.
Okay.
Before I go to that school.
Okay. All right. So this was just this club that was there in sort of name only. It wasn't really
Mhm.
anything going on with it.
Yeah.
And so then you came in, and so was there anybody that when you first went, was there anybody else there? I mean, what was it?
There was a thing. I was the only guy that was there. Most of the people that were there were girls, and they came from other churches.
Okay.
And from this to this day, they haven't been coming. I have no idea why. But me and my cousin is still basically in lead of it. Basically, we're not
Okay.
technically in charge
Uh-huh.
because the teachers are,
Uh-huh.
but we're basically the face of it.
Okay. So you and your cousin, this was Faith, the one that got
Yes.
baptized with you. So you guys went, and did you just kind of start leading it, or was there sort of an official thing? Did you talk to the teachers or anything like that, or what? So how is it?
So in the beginning, we didn't know what to do because
Okay.
I personally, I never wrote a Bible study. I never led a Bible study or anything.
Yeah.
So we're just because the way we were taught to read the Bible was just to open it up and just start reading. And
Yeah.
that's what we did.
Yeah.
Open it up and started reading it.
Yeah. And so that's what you did in your Bible studies?
In the beginning, in the beginning of the Bible studies, after a couple months, 2 months technically, and we're not getting any people showing up. Nothing's happening. No, like there's no like basically there's no ground surface to video because
Right.
one day we're like over here and the next day we're all on a different topic.
Right. Right.
So there's like no structure. That's what that's
Okay.
the word I'm thinking of.
Okay. So what did you do to establish structure then?
So I don't remember exactly when, but I came to my pastor and I was like, Pastor, how do I write a Bible study? How do I do this? He's like, he didn't give me an answer. He just like straight up went, basically told me to go read John 3:16. And he's like, understand that. I'm like, how is this gonna help me write it? How is this gonna help? What is the scripture got to do with writing a thing? What context is there? So then after a while, we started up on concerts. So then he taught me how to write an altar call.
Uh-huh.
So I was like, okay, I know how to write an altar call now. Let me mix this into the Bible study. Let me use the exact same format and write the Bible study with it. And doing that basically.
Okay.
That's when it started doing the Bible studies, me leading it.
Okay, and so when you started leading them, then what was how did that? So you started to establish the structure, and what happened from there?
No one showed up. We basically we had from the people that were originally coming, they left. Then a couple like there's like three people that would come, three different people,
Uh-huh.
and that was the whole crew. Me, Faith, and then there's another girl, and another guy, and the sister, the one other guy. So
Mm.
basically, like three, four, like five people basically,
Uh-huh.
and that would be hit for the rest of the school year. And at the end of the school year, no one would show. It
Mm.
was just me and my cousin there.
Yeah. And so you mentioned that things had changed. What happened?
Oh, I'm bro. So now it's completely different. There's eight people showing up almost every single Bible study we're having. And we changed it to Wednesdays only because originally it was Tuesdays and Thursdays. And that was too much for me. So now it's just Wednesdays doing lunch and eight people are showing. I remember the first day we had a official meeting, 11 people showed up.
Yeah,
And I think eight of them got saved that day.
fantastic.
Then the next day, nine people showed up. And then now we're averaging eight people.
Good. So, and these are these are the people that got saved that have been showing up?
Yes,
Wow.
people that got saved from the first day has
Uh,
been coming ever since.
fantastic. Very good. So I kind of set, I shouldn't say set you up because it wasn't really setting you up, but in the beginning, I had actually mentioned about, I wanted you to mention about your church, about the background of the church, different things that were
Mhm.
going on there, mainly to just kind of set you for this question is where in the world did all this excitement come from? You're not in a church where there's a lot of people. There's not a lot of ministry. There's not a lot of examples of people to look at for the various things that you're doing. Like you didn't have any reference point for because I asked you. You said there was no Bible studies. And so you have none of these things in place, but here you are doing these things. So what is it that is going on inside of you that makes you desirous to do these things because they're not things that other people are doing.
It was just, I remember my pastor always telling us, basically telling us to reach the world. That was basically the what our church is preaching. Go reach the world, try to get people saved. So that stuck with me, and that just basically just fire walking. That's just relighting, basically just the fire of the Holy Spirit. Basically, that's what's making me want to do this.
And so yes, that is definitely what you want. But there's a lot of people who will watch this that will be people from out throughout our fellowship that have been raised in church or other Christians or people your age that have never seen the kind of thing that you're talking about. What would you say to people in that line? Is it that kind of people that would be listening to what you're saying? You're doing a Bible study, you're doing this, you're doing that, but not really sure where that where does the fire come from, kind of a thing. I mean, what would be the advice that you give them? They say, okay, I'm a normal uh, religious person, but I want to be someone who's effective. I want God to be able to use my life, and what would you say to them?
That is a good question. um, just pray, basically. Pray that God would help you to have a spirit urging to see people get saved. Um, I know personally, I never really prayed for that spirit. That just came onto me. And that's basically the answer
Yeah.
I would give. Just pray that
Yeah.
you would make an impact,
Yeah.
because that's, at the end of the day, that's the point, to make an impact in this world and see people get saved.
Yeah. So you just said something there. You said you're saying you should pray for this, but you didn't pray for it. And
Yeah,
so
it's
it's
funny.
like, yeah. So it's probably not good advice, but,
Yeah,
but seriously though, obviously praying makes a difference in things.
hmm
But if you think back, because you had mentioned that you had uh, how long when you were first saved that it was kind of like what I described? It's not a whole lot happening. You were just kind of coming to church for something to do. How
a
long?
good year. Or
Okay.
during that time when I was playing football,
Okay.
mostly. That was
Okay.
the time I was just doing whatever.
Right. So you had that year of where you're really not doing anything, and then if I'm reading this correctly, that decision that you made about football really was a deciding factor. That because things began, so it was like a fork in the road, and you
hmm
went in another direction. Does that sound right? Is
Yeah,
that okay?
that's
So
exactly what it
okay,
was, basically.
so were there other decisions that you made like that? During that time, were there any other decisions other than the decision to not do football? Or maybe not so much to not do something, but now I'm going to start doing something.
Just I decided just to basically be a born again Christian, pray, read the Bible, and do the Bible studies, and that was really the biggest crossroad that I had to come through in my life.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah. So
uh,
when you had that conversation with your pastor, and you made those decisions, um, so you in your thinking afterwards, so you made the decision, and in your thinking afterwards, um, was there so what I'm getting at is the idea of if you were to think back on that time, was it like you were blind, you couldn't actually see these issues, but then you made that decision to you're not going to do football anymore and everything that went with that, all the hanging out with your old friends and stuff like that? Was that like kind of like that was the moment where kind of your eyes were opened, kind of a thing? Was that the idea, and all of a sudden it just started making sense? Is that more like what?
yeah, that's what basically it was. It was just me, just in that environment. I had my eyes basically shut.
Yeah.
I was basically blind during that time. It
Right.
was exactly what you're saying. It
Right.
was because, again, football was my identity. That's who I was. That was my identity. Even when I was playing football, I never even thought of quitting football. Never in my life. I'm gonna play football for the rest. That my mind doing playing when I was playing was,
Mm.
I'm gonna finish high school playing football all 4 years, and then I might be able to play college,
Yeah.
and then after that, I might be able to play pro, go
Yeah.
play NFL. May sound crazy,
Yeah.
but that
Well,
was
I figured that's where you were headed. That from the
mhm.
testimony that was the idea.
Yeah, that's basically almost everyone's idea when you play football. When most people that play football and they give everything they got, that's what's the end goal. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter anything else. That was the
Yeah.
I'm gonna make it pro. I'm gonna get all this stuff from it.
So for you, this was more than just not playing a sport anymore. This was so like in my life, it would be like, yeah, I was into IT and I was moving into becoming an electrical engineer, and God dealt with me to preach, and then I realized that I couldn't go in both directions at the same time, and so I gave up IT. So that was like I'm giving up my career, my future. Is that how it was?
Exactly. That's how it was. Because again, that was my whole thing. I never thought not playing football. Again, I never really thought of anything else but playing football. Almost every single when someone asked me what was your 5 years after high school, play NFL, go to NFL and play.
Yeah.
That was all my mind was.
Yeah. So you had mentioned that your mom wasn't too thrilled with that decision.
Oh my gosh.
um, and so you go ahead and just share the part about that. So you were in the car and you told her, and then she said she didn't wish you hadn't have done that. What did you?
Yep.
How did that go?
So let me get a little background. So
Yeah.
Thursday, that was the day I was thinking of quitting. But that same day, we were supposed to get a uniform, get a shoulder pads, helmet, and everything. I didn't know that. So I was like, this is gonna be my last practice. As soon as I get done practicing, I'm gonna tell coach I quit. But no, we had to sign, give the money for the uniform, everything. You had to like basically sign and guarantee that you're gonna play. That was basically it. And I don't tell people, but I was basically on the edge of not doing it. I was like considering, I was like, what's wrong with football? There's nothing wrong with it. What am I doing wrong? I'm not over here fornicating or something. I'm doing something. I'm playing football.
Yeah.
It's not a
Yeah.
big deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and then after a while, I was like, no, I gotta do something. So I called my pastor and he was like, you got it. Just not he basically not like what how do I phrase it? He didn't make me quit football. He said, I remember at the end of the conversation, he was like, remember, bro, if you do it or don't, I'm still gonna respect you. I'm still gonna basically disciple you. And I was like, I gotta quit. There ain't no way. I'm not gonna be able to stay saved, continue to go to church and all this if
But
I'm
I
playing
really want to
football.
clarify this. That
Yeah.
really was your decision, right? I mean,
Yes,
he
100%.
did tell you and said, this is the deal. This is how things are,
Yeah.
but left it open to you. It wasn't like, okay, you're an idiot if you don't do this. It wasn't anything like that, right? He was
Yeah,
just,
no.
trying to, tell you, listen, if you want to live for God, this is not, you're going to have a hard time. Is that
Yeah,
right?
that's exactly because even before he never the way I phrased it, he never just said you're either gonna play football or not. He's like, you're either gonna solve it was basically what he phrased, but
Yeah.
he never would force me to to quit. He never
Yeah.
nothing. He was just it's up to you.
Yeah.
I'm leaving it up to you. It's your ultimatum.
Yeah.
So then me going over there telling coach I quit. I'm crying. I'm falling out because it ordered me. Even before I started talking to the coach and telling him, "Oh, coach, I quit," I started crying. He was just looking at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, "Why you gotta look at me like this?" I was like, "Coach, I quit." He's like, "For what?" I was like, "For Jesus." And I was like, in my mind, I was like, maybe I should have worded differently. He's like, "I go to church on Sundays too," and I was like, "There's way more than just going to church."
Yeah.
So, and I just left. So then I'm going to the call. My mom, I remember telling my mom beforehand, I'm going to quit. She was like, no, don't quit. You're crazy. So then I quit. My mom's over here. We're driving off. My mom's crying. We're both crying in the car. She's like, Rafa, why did you quit? This is what you want. This is what you love. Why are you quitting? And I just remember crying. Let me say that what I said wasn't even on my mind. I never really put much thought into it. But then I told my mom, "Mom, I'm gonna be a pastor one day. I'm gonna have my own church one day, and I'm gonna preach the gospel." And the whole ride home, dead silence, and still stuck to me. I still have the exact same thing. One day I'm gonna be a pastor. I'm gonna have an own church, and I'm gonna preach this gospel.
Yeah. So that is very cool. And I have to say, it's enjoyable to hear you say that because that is exactly what happened to me when I got saved. Different circumstances, the things themselves, but everything just lined up just like that. Even to the point of, I wouldn't know how to tell somebody how to have what I had because I'm not sure how I got what I got. It just happened. It just happened, It's just
Yeah.
just the way that it happened is, but this is what kind of part of the reason why I wanted to have you on and maybe if I can have this guy Jericho at some future time is that this idea because I really do believe that so back in the 80s You might be familiar with some of the stories of it. It was a movement called the Jesus People movement. And during that time, it was the 70s and the 80s. There were hippies were getting saved. These were people who they just didn't want what the world had to offer, and they were just without direction. And so they end up, God's moving, and a lot of them begin to get saved. And so what happened out of that was that's when I got saved. As Jesus came into my life and saved me in that same period of time. And I wasn't looking to be saved, but I went through a lot of the same things you did, but it was a much bigger church. There was a much more going on. There were much more things that were there to be able to see for example's sake. And and so it wasn't so hard for me to make those kinds of decisions because I wasn't the only one that was making those kinds of decisions. There was other people that were making similar decisions. I broke all my paraphernalia, all my albums, all my everything that anything that reminded me of my life before I became a Christian. Took it through it all the way. I think I kept a couple of changes of clothes and hardly anything else. I pretty much got rid of everything. And I couldn't for the life of me. There's no way I could explain to you why I was making these decisions, other than like what you said. I just knew that God had saved me. I knew Jesus had saved me, and I knew He wanted me to preach. I knew He wanted to do something with my life. And so for me to hear you talk like this it's really exciting to see, because it's not something that is as common today as it was during that period of time. During that period of time, almost everybody felt called to preach. Almost everybody thought, "This is it. I'm gonna do this." And and so we were all, kind of just, getting ready, getting prepared for the day when we would do that. And then we ended up going out. But you're in a situation where you can't see that. You can't see the pathway, to getting sent out. Your church isn't quite at a place to where it's able to send out churches. You haven't got the ministry developed, that kind of stuff. But I find it interesting that you still have that same spirit, same attitude that says, you know what, I know God's going to use my life. I'm not worried about how that's going to happen, And to me, that's so critical, so important. Because God does want to use us. And so there's one other thing that I wanted to just kind of throw into this that you'd mentioned, and I really want to hear your thoughts on this, is you'd made the statement, you said, "We are leading the charge." And you kind of put out it was kind of a throwing down the gauntlet for other Christians. And so I want you to, what are you thinking there? I want to know what you're thinking there, because that's a pretty bold statement, to say we're the future of Christianity, So tell me about it. I want to hear what you have to say about that, because that's exactly, that was the same spirit that I got saved in. That same kind of idea is that, what was it? I was on outreach once. I didn't say this, but the group I was with, there was a bunch of Christians that were there, and they were upset because we started street preaching and stuff like that, and they were upset with us. And so they said, "Well, why are you so upset?" He said, "Well, we're praying for revival. We're praying for God to touch these people, and you come and you start doing all this stuff." And then one of our guys who were with us said, "Well, we're the answer to your prayer. You can leave now." Because that's how it was, that's how we saw it, is we saw it as, God is using our lives in a big way. We didn't see it as some small thing. And so when you say we are leading the charge, you're seeing things in a really big way. So I want to hear what that sounds like inside of your own head.
Just flat out, same way as back then when they had armies, they would teach the young to basically man up, take charge. You're going to be in my position one day. And that's basically the whole thing right there. Because believe it or not, you guys, the older generation is not going to get you any younger.
No.
They're not going to be able to do the exact same things we're able to do.
No, go ahead and say it. We're going to die. That's what's going to happen. We're going to die.
I try to say it more
No, you're
respectfully.
right. You're right. That we are going to die. We're all going to die. You're just too young to know it. I'm not.
Yeah. So sooner or later, they're gonna not that they're gonna stop preaching. They're gonna stop. I'm not saying you guys,
Yeah.
the old generation, are gonna stop
Yeah.
doing what they're doing. What I'm saying is that we, as the youth, got to take over, got to take charge of that and start doing it for them. Because sooner or later, I'm not saying that they're gonna stop, but their bodies are not gonna be able to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
They're physically not gonna be able to go
Absolutely.
stand on a car and street preach to people.
Yeah.
But we can.
Yeah.
We're able to run a mile and be okay.
Yes.
And we just gotta step forward. We gotta take that chance to be able to step forward. Because if we don't, we're leaving an empty spot right there. And any chance, if we leave an empty gap, the enemy could come in and take that gap and take us down.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So we gotta build ourselves up and take those spots that the older generation is taking those hits for us.
Well, I am really glad to hear you say that because I don't want to feel like I've lived my life in vain. Because it's so important that we have, like you say, that there are people that will take our place. Because if you're not taking our place, then when we go, what then? Is it just gonna
What's
all
yeah.
just going to all evaporate, which I hope not. The last thing I want to do is for things to evaporate and go away.
Mhm.
So, so
'Cause
any thoughts that, just out of the blue, now you have you have the mic, you can freestyle now.
well, that how do I phrase this? I want to continue on that thought we had with the little thing beforehand. So basically, I want to not emphasize, but basically, Philip, how do I say this? Same way as like I used to play football. I could use football as an example. These guys are getting older and older. The people that we used to watch, I remember, I don't know if you watch football, but these older guys, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, all these guys are getting older and older. And sooner or later, someone's going to have to take their spot and continue to play quarterback or whatever position they play. And the youth's going to come in. I want to just to basically like not symbolize, I don't know how to phrase the word is, but to link it together, basically.
Yeah.
That make it more simple to understand.
Yeah.
For some people that don't know war talk, or because that was the
Right.
whole my thing was just I don't know why, but right now the Spartans, you know how like
Right.
they would have like all lined up and everything.
Yeah.
That was my mind when I was saying that.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying, and it's a very powerful way of thinking. I preached a sermon Sunday. I started to tell you about it earlier. I preached a sermon Sunday night about is God passing by millennials, and that what you just said, that idea of so you use the war analogy, and then you also use the football analogy. Is there to me it seems like there's a generation that when they watch sports they just want to watch it. They don't want to be in the game, and so they don't really think about what happens when those players retire, all the great players retire. They don't really think about what would happen if there was nobody to take their place. They don't think about it from that standpoint. And I feel like there's been this whole generation of people, for the most part, I wouldn't say it's right across the board, but for the most part, a generation of people who they're just not thinking about the idea of being a replacement for what's coming in the future. And I think there's a lot of, just kind of a consumer mentality. I just want to, As long as those things are out there, like, I don't care about whether or not football stops, but it's here right now. So I'll just keep watching it until it's over, and that kind of thinking, and so you mentioning this, talking about from this standpoint gives me a lot of hope and a lot of encouragement, because that's the thing that I think is so critical, and my hope to be able to instill into younger people is that understanding that by virtue of the fact that everything's getting older, there's going to be lots of space, for people to fill in the ranks. And so the opportunity to be able to do something with your life, it's going to happen. There's going to be an opportunity. The opportunity is going to be there. The question is, will you be the kind of person that can step into that opportunity and actually do something about it? Or will it just be somebody else will have to, kind of step in instead? And so that whole idea, like when you said that we're taking the charge, I thought, here's a guy who's only been saved 2 years. He's in a fellowship now that's 50 years old. And in that period of 50 years, it's been the same leadership for the most part. There's been new people who've come into the leadership, but the leadership in general is still the same. Now, you pick up a flyer, for a conference anywhere in the world today, and it's the same flyer that was a year ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. It's the same guys who are preaching in those things. It's not like there's been this like big group of people that have passed away. There's been a few that have passed away, but it's not like a large group of them. A lot of these guys are still preaching. But yet there's going to come a time in the next 5 or 10 years where a lot of those guys they're not going to be able to do that anymore. And they may not even be alive anymore. But they can't, so many people can't be preaching every conference around the world. You can't have the same conference flyer for everybody around the world with the same conference speakers everywhere around the world. But so that idea of the future and thinking of the future and saying, what are we going to do? Because you're still going to be here when we all pass away, so there's not going to be anybody to watch anymore. It's either going to be you're doing it or it's not getting done. And so that's why, when you said that about taking charge, is that I thought, wow, that's really heartening to me, because that, there has to be people like that. There has to be new people. And I'm glad in the various conferences, we do have younger, new people that are preaching in our conferences, in our different conferences and stuff. But there's a ton that men's rally that I went to, hundreds of men, and a lot of them are very, very young men. And so to me, this is all just really exciting stuff, because I'm still out there, I'm still outreaching, I'm still street preaching, I'm still doing all that kind of stuff. I haven't stopped anything, and so, but at some point I'm going to have to hand off the baton, and it's nice to know that there's some people behind me who actually want that baton. So this is really cool. I'm really, really excited for you and for what's happening. And I'm sure it's a great help for Stockton. I knew the church in Stockton. I've known even before your pastor was there. I have a relationship with people in Stockton, because I think that's the same one that was actually pioneered from Tucson. Is there only one there?
No, there's two.
Two.
Tucson is the other church.
Oh, okay. So that's what I'm talking about. The other one. So I thought you guys were that one. Okay. So the other one is the Tucson church. Okay. But anyway, I'm just really, I've been on several outreaches in Stockton and stuff like that. And so the church has been there for a while. And so it's really good to hear that there's a fire that's kindled, and is beginning to burn. And so you can pray for God to give us some high schoolers. We've been starting to do some work with high schoolers. And so I'm really, really looking forward to finding some people that have no religious background, like you and like Jericho, that God can just get a hold of and stir their hearts and be on fire and do everything, just serve God with all their hearts. So that's really good. So we've still got about 10 minutes or so. If you've got any parting comments, or you had mentioned about questions, anything you want to?
Yeah, I thought I'd be able to freestyle some questions. Now I'm a little scared, so I'm good.
Uh,
What the whole fellowship's about. That's what the youth gotta keep in mind. We gotta follow. There's a reason why there's so much youth in our fellowship. There's a reason why for every little thing. But we just gotta just grab at that chance, try to reach for it. Because sooner or later we're gonna have to take charge if we're prepared or not. And it's way better to be prepared than not. You'd rather have your shield up ready to get a hit, and then with your shield down, kind of trying to eat a sandwich.
yeah, very good analogy. I'm trying to work that one out in my mind. Playing football and eating a sandwich at the same time.
Bro, I see some dudes that legit took out a bag, like a little sack, like a burrito out of the pants and eat it mid game. Do on the field. I'm like, bro, how do you have the stomach for that?
Oh my.
Crazy.
My. Wow.
But that's it. We just gotta take the youth. We gotta do something. God doesn't love the older generation more than us.
Yeah.
That's what my pastor is constantly saying nowadays. Not that he's saying that, but he's saying
Yeah.
God doesn't love them more than me.
Yeah.
That's what we gotta have.
Yeah.
God doesn't love them more than me.
Yep.
I can make an impact in my city. I can make an impact in my church.
Yes.
Because there's kids, I promise, there's kids that want to do it. They want to do an impact. They want to do all this stuff, but they're scared what's gonna happen. I know I was.
Yeah. In what way?
Just scared if they're not ready. That's what hold me back if I wasn't ready. I'm still a little shook if I'm not ready.
Yeah.
But just saying we can't do nothing about fear. We could pray, of course. God, there's a chance God could take it, but same way as you just street preach, you got to get up there and just do it.
Yep.
Just do it. Simple as that. You get as soon as you get done, you're good.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to, just do it. The first time that I ever street preached, I'd never street preached before. And I wasn't even there to street preach. I was just watching. And the guy, he handed me the bullhorn. He said, you want to go? And I was like, okay. But I was like, I just grabbed it. And I'm like, what in the world do I do? I had no idea. I didn't know anything. I'd been saved. I only been saved a week. And I'd never read the Bible. I didn't know anything. And so I just said like 10 times in a row, Jesus loves you. Jesus loves you. He died on a cross for you. Jesus loves you and he wants to save you. You just need to give your life to Jesus. He loves you and he wants to save you. And the funny thing is while I'm doing that, a whole bunch of my old friends come walking by. And it was the plan of God. I mean, God just organized that. And then they all came running over. They're like, what are you doing? Because they didn't know I'd gotten saved yet. I had only been a week and I just hadn't seen anybody. And so I got an opportunity to witness to all my old friends and stuff out of it. But yeah, man, you just got to do it. And when you do it, that's the thing is cool stuff happens.
So it's so amazing. It's just, you want to do it again.
Yeah.
That's where the fire was coming from. You just want to do it again and again and again and again.
Yeah.
And I don't even want to talk about my first time street preach. I didn't even say that. I just said I don't want to talk about this. It was terrible. I didn't even street preach. I was just saying things on the mic.
Yeah. Well, it's a thing. You just do it and just let God help you. God is able. I think that's for me honestly, that's the thing that I enjoyed the most about the kind of stuff we're talking about right now and the decisions is that all these decisions, now you're not looking at it going, man, I screwed up. I shouldn't have quit football. You're not saying that, right? Or are you?
No. No. That's the opposite. I'm so glad I quit football.
Yeah. Because
I hate y'all, but I'm just glad I quit.
Yeah, because now you see things that you didn't see before. You understand things that you didn't understand before. And that's, if you think about it, this is the reason why you have these stories of, people 16, 17, 1800s making these crazy decisions with their lives, to do something for God. I mean, just totally destructive things to their lives. And you might have heard the story of the guy, what's his name? Eric Liddell. He was in the Olympics. He was a runner, Olympic runner, but he wouldn't run because they were running on Sundays, and he said, "I'm not going to run," and so he had to quit certain events that were his best events. He actually had to go into other events that were run on other days because he wouldn't run those days. And but he was an Olympic runner. But then he decided, you know what, I'm gonna be a missionary to China, and he went to China. And then that was during a time where war had broken out, and he became a POW and ended up getting killed, in there. And anybody from the outside would look at that and think, God, what a waste, what he could have been. And they could say the same thing about your life. Well, what you could have been, man, here you are, you're in some church somewhere and you're pastoring some church and you got people that you're talking to all the time stuff, but you could have been an NFL professional, and no doubt there will be times where that kind of thing will be said, but in your mind, it'll be like, that was the best decision I ever could have made, was to give my life to Jesus and let Jesus do what he wanted to do with my life. So it's really, really awesome stuff. I mean, I'm really glad to hear that kind of a thing, because it is something that, it was very common in my generation. It was very common in many generations ago. I've read lots of books on people, testimonies like that. And so when you shared that specifically about quitting football in order to be able to do something for Jesus, it's like, man, that's such a valuable thing. And I really think that that's the thing that makes the difference, is there has to be that moment in your life where you give your life. I mean, you really give your life to Jesus, not just, fake your own death. It's, you're actually, no, this is costing me. It's not like, oh yeah, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't party. Those are all the sacrifices I made. It's like, those aren't sacrifices. You're going to kill yourself doing that kind of stuff. There's no sacrifice in that. A sacrifice is something that was actually beneficial for you that you gave up. And that's what you did, with your football, is you made a sacrifice. And out of that, God said, okay, now I can show you things, that you could never know before because you made that kind of decision. So very, very good stuff. Very, very good. Any last final comments or anything you want to have an opportunity to let people know, what is it that's going on in Rafael Alvarez's mind right this second?
You want to be for real, or you want me to
go for it?
I'm hungry. I want some food.
Oh yeah.
Oh, no. All of this, y'all, just know I'm human still.
Yeah.
I may look like, oh, he quit football, oh, he did all this, he's doing Bible studies. No, I'm a regular human just like y'all.
Yeah. See, that's
God doesn't love me more than you.
No. That's the deal. That really is the deal. When it comes right down to it, is that every one of us can be in a place where God can use us. There's no special criteria that God has to, kind of inject into us in order for us to, to be able to be used by him. We just simply need to be willing, be surrendered. So it was very good. Well, I'm glad you were able to be on, Rafael, as our guest for this week. And oh, by the way, I've been asked by Rafael to put in a plug. He is available. And
I was not expecting. I thought you were joking.
Okay, I'll let that go now. Okay, well, it was really good, really good, really glad to have you on, and looking forward to all that God's going to do in your life. And so I'm going to go ahead and close this down. So we will be having our regular service tomorrow at 7 p.m. And I encourage you to come and be a part of that service. And then we have our regular services. Once I finish this, it's going to switch over to that, and you'll be able to see our times of various things. But I really encourage you to be a part. And I was hoping that we would have some questions from people, but nobody actually gave any questions. But I'm sure your testimony alone probably helped a lot. So, Rafael, thank you very much for being with us, and look forward to
Thank
being
you
able
for
to
inviting
do
me.
this.
Thank you so much. It means a lot to be on this podcast and give a testimony.
Yeah,
little man from Stockton. Getting that no one knows.
Yes,
But being ghetto.
Amen. Okay, we'll see you. Take care. And now you just switched off my ending scene. We're out.